Gio, we're ready? Okay, I will call this meeting to order. And do I have an agenda? Yes. Okay, so that's the wrong agenda.
Oh, here.
Where's the
I
right?
think I took, that's HR, the
Okay.
one on top.
All right. Thank you. Here. All right, so I think first item, do we have any public comment? Anybody? Nope. Okay, then we have no responses. Approval of minutes from the February 7th meeting, which was entirely exec session, so there isn't much in the way of minutes. So they're good by me.
I am good with those minutes.
All right. Thank you. Jill, you're good with those minutes? Yes. All right. And then we have some report from our friends from Human Resources. Well, we can see anything that gets projected.
We're fancy.
That's cool.
No, it's loading.
Yes.
You see it there? Okay.
I didn't think it was that.
Sometimes it's so loud at my house. Sometimes it's just
Oh, yeah.
unbelievably loud.
I can, what's weird, I can hear it at my house and it's all the way down. It's 2.5 miles away.
Good evening, everyone. I'm here to provide a recruitment and retention update. I've also, I guess later, brought one of the new banners that I take to the career fairs and all the recruitment events I've been going to. Nice, colorful banner. Recruitment. And so this slide right here is really just detailing all of the different events, different efforts that are going on for recruitment across all of the different positions. Teacher recruitment days are really huge for recruitment. So there's the central area, and that's being held virtually. Usually SUNY Cortland hosts that event. Buffalo area, which is no longer accepting employer registration. So they're booked. I'm really excited to go to that one. Niagara Falls, that is in 2 weeks. And I think that's going to bring a lot of students with education teaching majors. So again, I'm really excited for that. I did get a list of resumes to look at. And so there are a lot of special education students attending science. We'll see in another slide. I'll go over our anticipated vacancies. So Rochester area is also virtual. And then I am also attending the Mid-Hudson teacher recruitment, which is being held at SUNY New Paltz. Some of the other college fairs that I've already attended, Ithaca College, SUNY Cortland had recently a panel for their CURE program. I'm also going to SUNY Cortland tomorrow on an educator panel to answer questions for their education school. So that I've gone to the last 3 years. And so it's a good opportunity to answer questions to the education students. They'll usually ask questions like, what are we expecting in their applications? They ask about our vision, mission. They'll ask the different districts that are there about the vision and mission. So it becomes a very engaging conversation with students. Binghamton, Brockport, St. Francis College was very interesting as well. There were a lot of elementary students, so childhood 1 through 6, I was able to connect with students there. And I'll continue to follow up with them. You know, I keep certain students, if it's sophomore, junior, in a pipeline as well. So I will be looking back and following up with students that I've also connected with that were like freshmen last year, sophomores. So that's some of the follow-up work that I do with connecting with students through these career fairs. Oven Fresh Fairs. So Cayuga Radio Group hosts these Oven Fresh Fairs. I don't know if you've all heard the ads on the radio. That actually draws a lot of people. And so we've been able to recruit aides from there, bus aides, teaching assistants, bus drivers, transportation. Some of the bus drivers that we currently have will come to those fairs and stand by the table. And so it's a great energy to recruit people. We have also been holding recurring weekly interviews. And so that's really helped with recruiting teacher aides and custodial staff. So that, you know, just a summary of the recruitment. Recruitment is an ongoing thing. It had, you know, all throughout the year. There's as many events, any opportunities that I can get to connect with education students throughout the New York State area, then I am constantly looking to do that. Are there any questions so far? Yes.
What's the Cortland Cure program?
So that's Cortland's urban, oh my God, urban, what is the R for? I'm so sorry. Yeah, it's not recruitment, but so this program focuses on urban rural. Cortland's urban recruitment educators. Thank you. I should have spelled that out there. My apologies. Yeah, so they actually had a Zoom panel last week, and they had I was on there, Syracuse, and then Schenectady was on there. And so the students had an opportunity to ask us different questions. They were also interested in benefits. You know, Syracuse is offering the master's program, you know, but it is limited. So those types of conversations came up. It was very interesting, as I could also highlight, okay, why would you come and teach in Ithaca City School District? So. All right, and retention. I think this is my favorite part. Keep, you know, putting in the energy to keep people here, stay in Ithaca. And a lot of it is fun, but there is a lot of work to be done. You know, one of the things that we think about with retention is the placement options, really looking at where are our new teachers going to be the happiest in their first, you know, probationary period, especially. So those first 4 years, where are they going to be the happiest, the most supported? You know, pairing them with a mentor that's going to really guide them. And it's not just check the box, because mentorship is a requirement for new teachers. So we've really been intentional in the conversations of how are we pairing our new teachers, so that there is the intention of equity, inclusion, culturally responsiveness through their time, through their tenure. Having the equity leadership teams in each building, that's also a way of support for, especially for our teachers of color. So continuing to look at that and improve that is a retention effort. And again, it's something that, you know, it's continuous. We have to continue thinking of, you know, how we can make it better so that people will stay. As you can see in these photos here, community connection is big in retaining people. So there's an effort that needs to go into making people feel that they're part of the community, connecting them with great resources so that they become more and more involved. And then obviously the more involved you are, the harder it is to leave a community. You know, I've been here 7 years, and when I first got here, I didn't know much about Ithaca. And there's certain things that I love to do outside of work that I felt moving from LA, I felt like, oh no, I'm not gonna find it here. And I've really found different communities of people to support that. And so as I think of retaining people, I also look to connect them. You know, what is it that you like? You know, what's gonna make you feel involved? Another key thing of retention is certification assistance. So especially in this past year, it's really guiding our new teachers, new educators in the certification. And obviously there's only so much that I can do, but connecting them with the resources that are really going to relieve a lot of stress around certification. I feel like, and I've also witnessed that relief when our new teachers get the new support, get the support through that process. Because although many of our new teachers have finished teacher programs, and they have everything, the skills, the abilities that they need, there's that bureaucracy with New York State education with applying for certification. So that's one of the things. Yeah.
I was just going to ask about that. The whole New York State Department of Ed, years ago, it was almost impossible to come from another state and get certification here. Is that eased up at all, do you know, or is that something you really should be pushing on?
Yeah, really understanding the different pathways. And then
Are there different pathways? Because I came from Kansas, and the first thing I came was like, okay, well, supposedly New York had reciprocity with North Carolina, where I got my master's. But it turned out New York didn't have reciprocity with anyone, even though these other states were telling us that.
Now, I came from Pennsylvania and I did have reciprocity.
Did you? Okay.
Yeah.
So I just wonder if that's
Yeah.
something we should be looking at as well, because if we can ease that transition a bit.
yeah, so reciprocity, I don't like to use it with candidates anymore, reciprocity, even though there is that reciprocity process. But the application, you know, the importance of submitting everything. Also, applicants need to communicate with the district they're coming from to say, okay, you need to fill out, there's a form like a verification of paid experience. There's also a form where they need to complete like the observations or whether they were satisfactory or and don't quote me on those words, but you know, there is something they ask for that has to do with the evaluation, and their district that they're coming from has to complete that So there's a lot of, and also making sure that the new teacher, that the teacher applies for the correct pathway. So that's one of the things that Loretta Waldron, the regional certification officer out of OCM BOCES, really helps guide the candidates, and then it relieves a lot of that stress and also time, because an application can sit waiting to be reviewed and for months, and they won't know that, oh, it's the wrong pathway, unless someone actually says, or like Loretta can review and say, oh, no, you actually need to go through this pathway, you need to get this verification. So it is a bit of a maze. And so you have to know the
There is- it
right.
Sounds like there's someone who is helpful in that.
She is awesome. Yes. Yeah. I
Okay.
think it's just one person there. I think she may have gotten an assistant. But it is hard to get a hold of her, but she is great when, she takes phone calls Monday through Friday. I think it's 8:30 to 11. And so I'll tell people, if you don't get her the first time, call again the next morning, call 8 o'clock, call 10 o'clock. And, if the person says, listen, I can't get out of class or whatever, then I'll call and I'll say, Loretta, like this is, so that has been very helpful. We've had a lot of teachers who started with no certification and different scenarios, and they now, have their certification issued. And it did take a few months, but they do have it.
Well, years ago, there was somebody at TSD BOCES who was a certification specialist.
Yes.
And it sounds like, so do you know, like who funds a regional certification specialist? So, I mean, it sounds like the support is less than it used to be. If you've got one person at OCM BOCES that's also, dealing with TSD BOCES,
Mhm. Yeah.
that's
And in
probably not enough.
In Albany, the actual building and office that acts on all this is understaffed and has been for years.
Yes.
I think in
They've always been
2008,
understaffed.
2009, they had some layoffs way back when that crisis was happening, and they've never refilled. So it takes a long time. More to your point, Jill, the reciprocity is, it seems straightforward, but then there's a lot of these little caveats. So we have people teaching, in your case, many years in Kansas, but didn't take the coursework that New York State requires back.
And they won't let you take it after
And
you
so
completed your degree.
I
It's
think,
a crazy situation.
Probably an uphill battle, but legislative action, if it was in full, could be something they could look at,
Yeah.
Yeah, and actually, I think it has been mentioned to some of our legislators that
Yeah.
that's a real issue, that,
The other thing Gladier's been shepherding people through, maybe two a year, is we have some folks who are affiliated with Cornell or Ithaca College and are here on visas. And in
Oh,
fact,
yeah.
sometimes not here on visas.
oh,
And
oh,
so Gladier in particular has been working with Bon Shannon King. It's it's a very regulated process, good or bad it is. And but that's another avenue to recruit and retain people.
mhm.
About how many people are affected by the certification process or the stonewalling of the certification process on average?
Well, everybody in a way is, because it takes so long to get certified, even when you get your paperwork in. Now, we've worked with ITA to say, look, as long as somebody at the BOCES level has said, yeah, all your stuff's in, it looks good, doesn't mean that it might not get kicked back, but primarily it looks good and it looks like it's going to be rubber stamped. We put them on the teacher salary roll, et cetera, even though they're not technically certified. And when it gets rubber stamped, then everything's good. It's only bit us once or twice in the years of doing it where it got kicked back. And
And-
we're like, oh boy.
A lot of people are affected because you get your initial certification, which they now call, what do they call the first one? It used to be
It used to be provisional.
provisional. Initial, okay, you get your initial one, and then to get your, and is it even called permanent anymore? Professional. So to get the next step, there are steps that have to be followed, and including getting your master's degree within 5 years of your appointment to a probationary position. And I mean, I ran into certification trouble because I had a baby and during my provisional years. And so I didn't continue to work on my master's. So I was behind in getting my master's. Now, if I had taken a leave of absence with the baby, then that would have stopped the clock. But because I kept on working, it didn't stop the clock, either for getting my master's and therefore getting my certification. So the whole idea was I was supposed to work full-time and take care of a newborn and work on my master's, which I wasn't able to do within the required 5 years. So I was in trouble right before I got hired here.
Wow.
And nobody, nobody at Albany would listen to anything about that. It's just like tough
Well,
luck.
It's actually encouraging to hear a couple of things, that there are people helping people with this process. And also, Bob was saying that we are essentially hiring people as we work through the process, if we have reason to believe that they can get certified in New York. That didn't used to be
Yeah.
true.
That's fairly recent, what, the
Yes.
last 3 years?
Right, yeah.
So that's I mean,
Progress,
That
yeah.
clears
Yeah.
my sense that there might be this backlog of people who aren't certified in New York, but could be, and therefore can't get jobs. But it sounds like we can hire them if we have reason to believe they can.
It's really towards the very end, though. There are many months where they're still working on, taking the online course or something.
Mhm.
It has to be, everything is done and it's mailed in, and it's essentially just waiting for somebody to stamp it.
Yep.
And more to your point, Chris, you asked how many. I don't really have a good sense of percentages, but with every vacancy now being so important, it always
Yeah.
seems like any slow up is
Yeah,
very
it
painful.
exacerbates the
Yeah.
problem.
Yeah.
Absolutely, yeah.
I'll also, so if a person has everything in, or it looks like they have everything met in Teach, I can go in and see if they have everything met. I can submit a request to expedite, and that has really helped. It's crazy how some applications will just sit there. And according to someone else shared with me, in all, depending if it goes to Albany or if it goes to the OCM BOCES office, well, it still has to go through Albany for that certification stamp. But because they're so short-staffed, then there can be some applications where I guess there's no, I'm not sure how their notification system is to know, okay, this person has everything in, let's issue them the certification. So for people that will say, okay, I have everything in, I can submit a request to expedite, and usually within a week, they have their certification. So that's a very helpful process within that system. So, so retention, affinity groups, we continue to work on and build. It has become evident that, the more there are groups that can, whether they are, or also employee resource groups, that's something that we're building as well. So that employees, through, if it's race-based, ethnicity, or, different identification factors that will allow employees to get together, to network, to feel supported. I put employee perks there with an asterisk because that's something that I want to continue building. what is it? The Ithaca Loves Teachers is always a good example of, you know, if we have something that is, you know, ongoing as perks, it gets people together and it gets people really out and happy to be in Ithaca. So you know, I'm thinking of how we can expand the employee perks, grow our own. Those conversations continue as we, you know, there is contractual language in the ESP contract that will help with growing our own, but you know, also building on that. How can we support our current staff to then become teachers? Any questions on this?
I think just one comment I have, when I was thinking about my first experience in Ithaca, and it sort of is akin to an affinity group, that when I was hired for the English department, there were 2 or 3 other teachers who had just come into the English department. And we were kind of this affinity group that really was very supportive. And it was like, you know, have you figured this thing out yet? Did you ask anybody about this that I don't understand? And it really was a very supportive thing. So when you think about, you know, placing people, you know, having other new folks in your building or in your department can be a real source of support.
Yes. Yeah, I heard there's a few teachers that told me they were working out together and we're very excited about that. So it's good to hear that type of support. There's also First Fridays, which is at North Star, that happens once a month.
Oh.
And that has led to people connecting at other events. And it's just so very enjoyable to be in a space with people of color, really enjoying getting to know each other, really letting their guard down. You know, so many conversations happen, like, what brought you to Ithaca? Oh, how'd you stay? And it's really nice. Very much, you know, feeds the soul for people that are coming from outside of Ithaca.
Is that district sponsored or community sponsored?
No, it's actually sponsored by Cornell's. So Cassie, Cassandra Pierre, she is the director of, I believe her title is Director of Diversity Inclusion at Cornell. And so I've been on the planning committee for that with her for some time. And so we kind of, you know, tag team, but it's funded by Cornell. Yeah. All right. So staffing needs for next year. We have started receiving retirement notifications. And then we have some anticipated vacancies that we know, but we haven't received official notices. So some of those are on there as well. And I just to know, April 1st is the ITA contractual deadline for transfers, but there also is a retirement incentive. So so that encourages teachers to put in their retirement, let us know ahead of time.
So that's April 1st too. And what is the incentive?
Yeah, so the incentive is it's a 90 days. So if they turn in their notice, then There is a payout. So the sick day payout, and,
I think it's currently up to $12,000
yes,
if they have accrued enough time,
Time. If they've
Yeah.
accrued enough
which,
time.
yeah, so that's.
And
that's
it's
pretty-
6 for the sick time and then 6 for the,
for 20 years of service.
right.
Yes.
right.
And the
Um,
other, just in case anyone else is listening, but you all know that the April 1st deadline for transfers is a soft deadline. We felt,
Mhm.
both administrators and the union have felt like if a teacher is thinking about it and then really decides, look, I really would like a different position if it becomes open in one particular building, then it's better to try to get teachers where they want to be and feel comfortable rather than say, hey, you're 2 weeks late in that.
all right, so we do know that we're gonna need to fill technology. Shout out to Scott Briegel. He's been awesome when it comes to recruitment. And so we've done some good teamwork with that. So we'll continue that. World language has been a hard one to fill. So I put it up there as an anticipated. We also mathematics will need to fill secondary mathematics positions, music, special education. We have about 15 to fill for next year. Elementary, we anticipate up to 10 elementary teachers that we'll need to hire. We do have some vacancies for science, and that's per retirement and per resignation. So biology, 2 teachers, chemistry and physics. English as a new language, we have that position to fill, and then social studies.
Is the 10 anticipated elementary, is that more or less or about the same as is typical in a typical year?
It's- Yeah, the last few years, that's been pretty typical. Yeah.
In fact, we'll start to hire elementary teachers without actual vacancies,
Mhm.
knowing that we're going to have at least 10. When we get to 7, 8, or 9 hires, we start to make sure we have openings. But right now, they're available and they're good. We'll hire them out the spot open. The other, I think, a little bit cautionary tale is the 15 vacancies in special ed.
Right.
The breakdown is currently, as of today, 9 elementary, 8 secondary. There are 2, though, that could be certified, probably will be certified by the end of the school year. So that helps a little bit.
Mhm.
And there are 3 gen ed teachers who have expressed potential interest to move into special ed. So that's a real help there. Now, whether those will materialize or not, there's a lot of decision-making that has to happen. So also recall we have, I think, 3 special ed certified teachers who are also certified in gen ed who asked to try that out. So
To try
to try gen ed.
Gen Ed.
Yeah, so
Okay. they might.
they may decide to come back. So, it's cautionary in the sense that the numbers were a lot worse last year.
Uh-huh.
So it's starting to look good. And then an actual, I think, success story at this point, knock on wood, thanks to Gladira, Dan, Liz Berner, is transportation. I won't take much time going over it, but we have, we want, the sweet spot for transportation is 72 drivers.
Oh,
We each get that.
Thank you.
So I got-
I think my grandson will love
I was
this.
about to
Here, he can have 2.
I am a hero
These
tonight.
are
He can-
stress-
he can
stress
reach them,
reducers,
right?
Yeah. The sweet spot. Oh, and we'll probably, Gladira probably lead this effort, but we'll give the board, the full board, more of an update as April, a little bit after, mid to late April, as retirements and things start to coalesce. But 72 is a sweet spot for transportation to cover 62 routes. We currently have 67 drivers.
Mhm.
And we have 11 trainees. 2 of those trainees will probably solo, which means they will become full-fledged drive on their own bus drivers in about a week. And 6 of them are taking the test within the next 2 weeks. So they could come online in 3 or 4 weeks from today. And 3 are in the permit process. Now, we'll have some retirements and resignations in transportation, as we always do too, but it's beginning to look like it's the pressure is being relieved. Now, to say, I think 2 weeks ago before the break, there was 3 or 4 days where 14 drivers couldn't work because they all had COVID. So
Yeah.
there'll be some of that going too.
Sure.
So nice job to those that are in the trenches every day on this.
Yes, I had the opportunity to hang out in transportation for a few hours when we did HR on the road.
Mhm.
And it's just a great energy of people over there. So great to get our numbers up for bus drivers. Any questions before I move on? No. All right, and I just wanted to provide a visual of our hiring process. From the time we post a vacancy, we usually on average, there's a 10-day average of when that vacancy is posted. Or if it's a hard to fill vacancy, then we'll leave it until filled. That's one of the practices we've done with elementary and special education, is that we'll leave it until filled, and then we'll have different rounds of screening and interviews. And we started that early a couple years ago, and that really helped us fill vacancies. We post on OLAS, which is the online application system, and that's run by Putnam BOCES. And that gives us a big what's the word I'm looking for? Access of it goes out to a lot of educators. We also have recently started using Schoolfront. And so Schoolfront is our application system, but also our onboarding system, our hiring forms portal. And that's where we've turned our hiring process from paper to digital. Recruitfront is the application portal for Schoolfront. So we post on there. When we post on Recruitfront, it also goes out to Indeed, all of those hiring sites like Career Builder, the other like months. It sends it out to different application sites. Handshake is a great system as well, because it allows us to connect with the career sites for colleges and universities. And so that's what many students will then use to see our vacancies. And Mark has done a great job of posting to all these places. He also has to send to different listservs. So getting our vacancies out there. Screening, again, we can have rounds of screening, but also if there is a position that doesn't have or that has few candidates, then we'll bypass the screening and just interview everyone. That has allowed for us to be more inclusive and really to interview all candidates and diversify as well. So, there are, if we're interviewing all candidates, we can really see and find out more than what their application is saying. Interviews, we are mostly in person again, but we do virtual accommodations per request. Some of our first rounds of interviews, like for elementary and special education, as we're doing a lot of them, we'll do the first round will be virtual, and then we'll have in-person interviews. And then we move on. Once we've identified candidates, we'll do the job offers. That's where reference checks happen. We also, if we can offer early job offers, then that's been great. Dr. Brown has really been great in that process. So when we identify a candidate that, we need to snatch up real quick, then, early job offers. Onboarding. So again, we've moved to a paperless onboarding. This for the 23-24 school year will be where we will be 100% paperless onboarding. We will still meet with the new hires in person, and that will be more of an orientation. So, last year we collaborated with the tech department and did this amazing orientation where our new hires, before they stepped into the building, had all their technology. They had access to, whether it was Seesaw, Canvas, they could get into WinCap Web, which is the employee self-service. They just had the tools that they needed before they stepped into the building, which has been an improvement throughout the years. And it was a one-stop thing for them where, they didn't have to go to different buildings. They also got their badge. So that was very efficient. And so we'll continue that. Eliminating the paper portion of it. So, they can either complete the onboarding forms at home and then attend the orientation, or we will also offer technology so that new hires can also complete the paperwork with the technology department. So if they need assistance, then they can get that during the onboarding. So it has been a learning curve for some people, but I think, like anything, once we get used to it, we're going to be helping those that need training on technology, and then just being more efficient. Our approval, so the hiring approval process has been much more seamless, and everyone can see what's going on with that new hire instead of, oh, this paper got stuck in an office, and it delays the process. So a much more streamlined process, much more efficient. Any questions on this? Great. We've also had a bit of a remodel in our HR office, which has,
I haven't seen it yet. Yeah.
yeah, it's helped with the like paperless type of, the area. Their desks are smaller, but much more like modern. So they have stand-up desks. It allows for this like interactiveness. I mean, when you first look, it's like, oh, is it a cubicle? But no, there's a lot of like collaboration and interactiveness that is happening, and less paper. We got rid of, oh my God, we got rid of like 6 big file cabinets that were in that office. Yes. We also were able to add 2 more desks in there. So Jaleesa and Mark were at one point on the other side, and so they were able to come, what do we call that? The east side or
The West Wing.
Yes, the West Wing. Mary Hefner in our office called it like there's the east side of HR and the west side. So it has allowed us to add 2 more people into that office. And yeah, it's been good so far. At least that's what everyone tells me.
Yeah,
I don't think they're
it looks
lying.
great, too.
Where does the HR department stand for help needs right now, staffing needs to support you guys?
Yeah, so we have, Tammy is going to be retiring at the end of this month.
Oh,
So we've actually, so we'll need to replace, so we'll need to fill that vacancy. We also just filled one of our vacancy. Kina Alexander has returned. And yes, and so she is actually training with Tammy, which has been really good because, yeah, that way it's going to be a smooth transition, and then we will fill. But we're going to fill for that. We had added a new admin assistant or an additional admin assistant, and so that will be where that person will go. And then we'll revisit again our division of duties. We continue to do that to see where are we best, how, continue with the efficiency. How are we best utilizing everyone?
Gotcha.
are we good?
And that's all I have. Any questions?
It's good. Love these.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Okay. Yes. So what did you, what did you do with these? Where did you?
I think Ladera takes them to recruitment places.
Oh, cool.
Yeah,
Yeah.
So we had anticipated a exec session, which I think we should go ahead and do, though I will say, I think we're going to keep it brief
Yeah, yeah.
because the things are not like all that time sensitive. So, but we can touch base.
A motion that we enter into executive session for the purpose discussions regarding proposed pending or current litigation, collective negotiations pursuant to Article 14 of the Civil Service Law and matters leading to the appointment, employment, promotion, demotion, discipline, suspension, dismissal, or removal of a particular person and or corporation.
Second.
All in favor? Let's go. Okay, so we're back and we're beautiful and we're adjourned.
All
Okay,
right.
all in
Aye,
favor?
aye.